What is it about forbidden places that makes them so irresistible? Tell people they can't go somewhere, and suddenly it's all they can think about. But some spots on the map are off limits for very good reasons. Deadly wildlife, deadly secrets, or the kind of contamination that'll make your hair fall out just from standing too close. Today on Tenfold Gold, we're taking you on a tour of the forbidden. These are 10 islands you're not allowed to visit. The snake-infested, plague-haunted, nuke-blasted corners of the world where entry isn't just frowned upon, it's flat-out banned. And before we set sail, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Tenfold Gold, the channel that takes you to top-secret places and back again in one piece. Number 1. North Sentinel Island, India. Out in the Bay of Bengal lies North Sentinel Island, a slice of tropical paradise that's as close to off-limits as anywhere on Earth. It's home to the Sentinelese, one of the last uncontacted tribes in the world, and they've made it very clear they want nothing to do with outsiders. Boats that get too close are met with a hail of arrows, and helicopters that hover overhead are shot at with spears. Even the Indian government has given up trying, drawing a 3-mile exclusion zone around the island. It isn't just about protecting the curious from a fatal reception, it's also about protecting the Sentinelese themselves. With no immunity to modern diseases, even a handshake could wipe out their community. In 2018, a missionary tried sneaking ashore to convert them. He was killed within hours, his body never recovered. The island remains a blank spot on the map, where modern laws, tourism, and technology simply don't apply. For now, North Sentinel belongs only to the Sentinelese, and that's exactly how they intend to keep it. Number 2. Snake Island, Brazil. About 90 miles off the coast of São Paulo lurks Ilha da Queimada Grande, better known as Snake Island. From a distance, it looks like a tropical dream. White beaches, lush greenery, clear seas. But step ashore, and you'll realize why Brazil has banned visitors by law. This 110-acre rock is crawling with thousands of golden lancehead vipers, a species of pit viper found nowhere else on Earth. Their venom is so potent it can melt human flesh, and estimates suggest there's one snake for every square meter of ground. Local legend says the last lighthouse keeper and his family tried to live there, only to be overwhelmed by snakes that slithered in through the windows. Whether that's true or not, the island is now completely off limits, except for the occasional scientist escorted by the Brazilian Navy. Snake smugglers have been known to risk it, since a single golden lancehead can fetch thousands of dollars on the black market. But for everyone else, it's a paradise best admired from a very, very safe distance. Number 3. Gruinard Island, Scotland. At first glance, Gruinard looks like any other small, windswept Scottish isle. Rugged cliffs, patches of grass, and a whole lot of sheep nearby on the mainland. But for nearly half a century, this uninhabited scrap of land carried a chilling reputation. It was off limits because it had been poisoned by anthrax. During World War II, British scientists used Gruinard as a testing ground for biological weapons, releasing anthrax spores to see just how deadly they might be if unleashed on enemy soil. The answer? Very deadly. Test sheep died within days, and the spores proved so resilient they clung to the soil for decades. From 1942 until the late 1980s, signs warning of lethal danger kept anyone from setting foot there. Farmers worried the contamination might drift to the mainland, and the island's name became synonymous with Cold War paranoia. It wasn't until 1986 that scientists finally decontaminated Gruinard by soaking it in formaldehyde and seawater. In 1990, it was declared safe, but the island remains uninhabited. Technically, you could visit now, but few are rushing to picnic on a place once nicknamed Anthrax Island. Sometimes, a bad reputation lingers longer than the danger itself. Number 4. Surtsey, Iceland. In 1963, fishermen off the southern coast of Iceland saw something incredible. The ocean itself was giving birth to a new island. After an undersea volcanic eruption, fire, smoke, and ash rose out of the waves, eventually solidifying into a barren chunk of land that would be named Surtsey, after Surt, a fire giant from Norse mythology. Unlike most islands, which have long, messy human histories, Surtsey was brand new, a blank canvas, and the Icelandic government was determined to keep it that way. Only scientists are allowed to step foot on Surtsey, and they go there not for selfies but for research. The island became a living laboratory, a natural experiment showing how life colonizes fresh land from scratch. First came mosses, lichens, and a few brave seagulls. Then, gradually, plants, insects, and seals made their mark. Even the first human footprints were frowned upon, as researchers wanted to see how nature worked without interference. Today, Surtsey is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, fiercely protected from tourism. For everyone else, it's look but don't touch, a reminder that sometimes the rarest wonders are the ones we leave alone. Number 5. Poveglia, Italy. Just off the canals of Venice lies an island so steeped in horror that even the locals won't touch it. Poveglia looks idyllic from afar, a little green dot on the lagoon. But step closer and you'll find one of the most cursed places in Europe. During the Black Death, the island became a quarantine zone where the sick were dumped to die, often burned in mass pyres. It's said the soil itself is still thick with human ash. Centuries later, when the plague was a memory, Poveglia got a new reputation as home to an asylum where patients were supposedly subjected to grim experiments by a doctor who, folklore has it, eventually threw himself from the bell tower. Whether those stories are folklore or fact hardly matters, because today the island is officially closed by the Italian government. Crumbling ruins stand among overgrown weeds, and ghost hunting shows tell tales about tortured spirits still lurking in its shadows. Fishermen are so afraid that they avoid casting nets too close, fearful of dredging up bones. Venice is full of beauty, romance, and gondolas, but Poveglia is its shadow, a forbidden island, where history has piled tragedy upon tragedy until even the air seems cursed. Number 6. Diego Garcia, British Indian Ocean Territory. If you think Forbidden Island conjures up images of snakes or ghosts, Diego Garcia adds a very different kind of chill, the political kind. Picture a tropical paradise in the middle of the Indian Ocean, palm trees, turquoise seas, and a perfect atoll. Now erase the locals. In the 1960s and 70s, Britain forcibly removed the Chagosian Islanders to make way for a joint US-UK military base. Families who had lived there for generations were dumped in Mauritius and the Seychelles, left to scrape by while their homeland was sealed off. Today, Diego Garcia is one of the most secretive bases in the world. Ordinary civilians aren't allowed anywhere near it. Instead, it's home to bomber aircraft, warships, surveillance operations, and, according to some allegations, CIA black sites during the War on Terror. It's the kind of place where the official maps are vague, the flights are classified, and the only visitors are wearing uniforms. For the Chagosians, it's the paradise they were exiled from and can't return to even after the rest of the islands were handed back in 2024. For the rest of us, it's a reminder that sometimes the scariest forbidden islands aren't cursed by nature or haunted by ghosts, but locked down by governments with something to hide. Number 7. Enewetak Atoll, Marshall Islands. Imagine an idyllic string of Pacific islands, white sands, swaying palms, waters so clear you can see the fish darting beneath. Now imagine the United States dropping 43 nuclear bombs on it between 1948 and 1958. That's Enewetak Atoll, paradise turned into a radioactive test site. One of those blasts, codenamed Ivy Mike, was the world's first hydrogen bomb, so powerful it vaporized an entire island. The fallout was catastrophic. Local residents were uprooted, their homes poisoned by radiation, and many never returned. To contain the mess, the U.S. scraped up contaminated soil and dumped it into a giant crater, sealing it under a concrete dome now known ominously as the Cactus Dome. But here's the kicker. That dome is cracking. Rising sea levels threaten to spill its contents back into the ocean, making Enewetak not just a forbidden island, but a ticking time bomb. These days, some areas have been declared safe for habitation, but large swathes remain off-limits, with Geiger counters clicking away like angry cicadas. It's a stark reminder that while nature can heal a lot, some scars, especially nuclear ones, never really fade. Number 8. Hashima Island, Japan. Also called Gunkanjima or Battleship Island, this tiny rock off Nagasaki looks like a warship steaming through the sea. But up close, it's more like a nightmare. Once a booming coal mining hub owned by Mitsubishi, it crammed more than 5,000 people into just 16 acres during its 1950s peak. Imagine families stacked in crumbling apartment blocks, all surrounded by a thick concrete seawall. It was crowded, noisy, and bleak, a floating factory town. Then came the collapse of coal mining in the 1970s. Practically overnight, the island was abandoned. Today, it's a haunting ghost city. Shattered windows, rusting staircases, entire apartment blocks slowly collapsing into the sea. For years, it was completely off limits, declared too dangerous to set foot on. Only in recent years have controlled tours been allowed, but most of the island remains sealed off, its unstable buildings ready to crumble at the slightest nudge. It's eerie, cinematic, and familiar too. James Bond fans will recognize it as the inspiration for the villain's lair in Skyfall. But unlike a film set, the danger here is all too real. Number 9. Bouvet Island, Norway. If there were a competition for most pointless place to own, Norway would win hands down with Bouvet Island. Plonked in the middle of the South Atlantic, halfway to nowhere, it's officially the most remote island on the planet. The nearest land is Antarctica, 1,000 miles away, and even then it's hardly a neighbor you can pop round for a cup of sugar. Bouvet is an ice-covered volcanic lump, blasted by storms and cloaked in mist. There's no harbor, no flat land, and no permanent human settlement. Landing here is almost impossible. Ships can't dock, planes can't land, and if you do somehow wash ashore, you'll probably freeze before you can say holiday brochure. Even penguins and seals look fed up with the place. For decades, it's been a magnet for mystery. In 1964, an abandoned lifeboat was found on its beach. No people, no wreck, just the boat, sitting there like a half-written ghost story. Nobody ever figured out how it got there. And honestly, maybe it's better not to know. Bouvet isn't just forbidden. It's the dictionary definition of inhospitable, the ultimate thanks but no thanks destination. Number 10. Heard Island, Australia. If you're after an island getaway with palm trees and cocktails, Heard Island isn't the one. Sitting lonely in the sub-Antarctic, this Australian territory is one of the wildest, bleakest places on Earth. Getting there is half the battle. It's over 2,500 miles from Perth and lashed by some of the fiercest seas on the planet. There are no airports, no towns, not even a single shack. Just howling wind, glaciers, and the sound of your teeth chattering. The island's headline act is Big Ben, a towering snow-capped volcano that's not just dormant decoration, but actively erupting. That's right, in between dodging blizzards and elephant seals, you might find yourself running from actual lava flows. Australia requires a special permit to even set foot there, and only a handful of scientists and hardy adventurers ever bother. What you get in return is one of the last truly untouched environments. Dramatic peaks, black sand beaches, and ecosystems almost entirely undisturbed by humans. Which is exactly why the rules are so strict. Heard Island isn't just difficult to reach, it's deliberately kept off limits. Sometimes the best way to protect paradise is to make sure no one visits. And there you have it, 10 islands you'll never be booking through your local travel agent. From volcanic death traps to snake-infested jungles, plague pits to secretive military outposts, each one shows that not every corner of the map is meant for curious tourists. Sometimes the do not enter sign isn't just bureaucracy, it's survival advice. If you enjoyed this trip into the world's most forbidden islands, give the video a like, share it with your fellow explorers, and hit subscribe to Tenfold Gold so you don't miss the next strange journey into history, myth, and mystery. And tell us in the comments, if you had to spend a night on one of these islands, which would you risk it on?